Hi, the video you will see below, after this brief introduction, is an excerpt from the online apprenticeship course I have been working on for several months now, and which we are currently translating into English from the original Italian. I have decided to make some of the videos that are part of the course available to everyone from time to time. However, I will only share those that have certain characteristics. Most of the videos in the online apprenticeship course are linked to each other, while others are not. In this case, it would not make much practical sense to share them outside the context and purposes of the course, which as a whole has specific objectives and has a structure and progression linked to the connections that will be made between the contents over time. However, some of the videos deal with particular techniques or topics that I would like to highlight, and above all, they are made in such a way that they can also be taken out of the context of the course. In other words, I have realized that some content can be isolated from the context, but still retain a practical meaning, even beyond the overall vision of the course. So this is the first video I am sharing, and then I will decide over time which ones I think should also be made available outside the course. Most of them, as I said, are closely related to the aims of the course, for which I am leaving you the link to the online course access page. If you log in and scroll down, you will find the curriculum and you will be able to see which videos are accessible outside the course. For example, in addition to the one you are about to see, there will also be 2 contemplative videos available in the section dedicated to contemplative videos, which I am about to add to the course, where I will add a few at a time over time. These also have their function within the course, but they can be used anyway. So I have made these visible to everyone as well. I don't think I will put these on YouTube, but if you log in and scroll through the curriculum, you will find them. So take a look at the curriculum from time to time, as it expands every month. Over time, you will find some new content available. Obviously, my advice is to sign up and follow the path if you are interested in nagualism. The path is challenging, but then again, so is nagualism, which should be clear. If we want to open up new directions, we cannot do so by dedicating ourselves to it on Sunday mornings. It is something that should come to invest our entire existence. The way I am constructing and implementing the course, this is an opportunity to absorb, to lay all the foundations, while aiming for a fundamental result within nagualism, namely the state of predominance of the energetic body, as well as learning the sequence, the practical understanding of recapitulation, the keys to accessing dreaming, and the fundamentals of stalking. In short, what I am setting out in the complete course. However, when there is something that can be taken and used outside of this large structure that I am creating, then I will make it accessible to everyone. Enjoy watching.
So now, before we move on to the homework, I leave you with one last exercise, an exercise to evoke the energy body. The goal of our course, of our path, is after all to achieve the predominance of the energy body. Therefore, we start right away to stimulate this possibility, also because time is different on the other side. There is an inertia that has to be overcome by applying continuity and immediacy. This is a very interesting exercise, very useful, because it allows you to train yourself in the ability to shape your sensations with an exact purpose that points to energy efficiency. It's a way, in short, to learn how to manipulate one's sensations with a strategy. That is, a way, in the end, to learn how to intend, getting help, by the way, from someone who already knows very well how to do it, how to intend, and that is our energy body. The technique itself is simple. You need a few conditions, 2 areas, 2 points where you can go and stay, one in front of the other and separated by some space. These 2 points work best if they are somehow, let's say, signaled or highlighted by the presence of some element or by a difference of some kind between them and the rest of the environment they are in. For example, the presence of a tree, as in the video. Like placing yourself with your back towards a tree, a large tree, can be a very good way. In this case, also because of the effect that the tree has on the whole area of the back, on the wings of perception. Anyway, you get into this position and gaze at the opposite position, the one where you should evoke the presence of the energy body. The exercise is really to evoke the presence of someone in the position opposite to where we are, on the opposite side, so in the other position. And not by mentally imagining it, but by feeling it in the body. You know that, right? The way you physically feel the presence of another person. This is something like that. Although in this case, the presence that should actually be manifested is that of a person, of a human being in some way. But how could we define it? Not civilized? I could use that term. Or better, the term primordial. Primordial in the sense of a force that has relation to the basic elements, the basic energy forces of the world. So, the underlying condition is to be able to get to the evocation, to the manipulation of your own sensation for the other place, to actually realize the physical presence of something, of an entity that is us but is not us. When you can get that feeling the best way you can, you start going from one position to the other in order to merge, so to speak, with the other position. So keep doing that. Whenever you can get clearly the presence of this something, this someone who is a force in the other position, hold it as long as you can, confirm it as long as you can, and then walk until you reach the other position. And switch. Of course, if the distance is short. This exercise can be done on short distances, that is a few meters from one position to the other, but also on hundreds of meters, or even with positions that are not reachable. Now, this act of physically swapping positions is something you obviously do in a preparatory phase, going from one position to the other, reiterating this path, and going to coincide with the sensation you evoked in the other position. This you will do initially, so with 2 positions that are separated by a fairly short distance, a few tens of meters at most, and that you can physically reach. But actually, the evocation of the other position, the evocation of the energy body in another position, can also be done over very long distances and in places that maybe are not physically reachable. However, you will do this when you have already achieved the mastery, the ability to do it over shorter distances. It may help the success of this exercise if, in addition to the twin positions being marked by rocks, a group of trees, or a clearing, in short, if in addition to the positions being differentiated in some way in the environment, the space separating them is also in some way marked. For instance, the two positions can be separated by a watercourse, a small watercourse, or by a path that passes between them, even by a path that joins them. Why not? Let's say that if this separation between the two positions is somehow highlighted in the physical environment, it's even better. It's not strictly necessary, but it can help to make both the separation of the two positions and their connection more obvious, and thus make it easier to charge the position on the opposite side where we are in the right sensation. What matters, as always, is getting the right sensation. You see, it can also be a circle of trees, a point marked precisely by stones, or a clearing without grass, and so on. But this fact that the exact point is somehow physically highlighted in the environment is more to help us focus, correctly gather our attention in a precise area where somehow we condense, through the application of our attention, channel to a precise purpose. We are thus able to gather, to put together the presence of the energy body. As you see in the video then, this exercise can also be done over very long distances, and actually I can tell you that once you have mastered it over short distances, the evocation of the energy body over very long distances is very, very effective. And it can be interesting to do this exercise also retroactively, as we'll see later in the next meeting, in order to reinforce, to create a kind of, we might call it a temporary place of coincidence, in a place maybe where we already can perceive more easily certain characteristics of the place that can help us. So we build, how can I say, we reinforce and confirm the sensation of the presence, the evocation of the presence of the energy body, until that place becomes very effective from that point of view. And so in this case, using distant places, as you see now in the video, is very, very effective. Once we can really realize the presence of our own personal energy body in this kind of place of coincidence, then reaching that place becomes very, very interesting. It becomes a place of our own where we can really begin to get a particular relationship with our energy body and its capabilities. Clearly, even if the place is far away, if we decide to reach it physically, we need to choose a place that is somehow reachable. Let's not overdo it though, because it can be helpful to have some difficulty in reaching it, as the physical commitment as well as the commitment of attention always makes things much more intense and powerful. Another special case is when we have the opportunity to use the presence of fog to evoke the energy body. We will deal with fog separately, a little bit at a time. We will also look at how we can use the various elements around us for particular purposes. In this case, the fog helps focusing the sensation. The fact is that the fog creates a curtain with respect to being able to see and look exactly with clarity, as we usually do, and thus regain the normal description of the world. So, the effect of the fog, of partially hiding the visual description of the world, actually helps us to shift to the sensation that we have for that exact point, and therefore actually makes it easier for us to construct and realize the right sensation, which, I repeat, has to be physical and not mental. This is always the necessary and essential prerequisite when we realize these sensations. It has to be the same sensation that we have physically. When we approach a tree, we have a certain kind of sensation, right? That is not imaginary. The presence of the tree is real because we know the feeling we have for the tree. We do the same thing in order to evoke the presence of the energy body. Obviously, the energy body is something that in ordinary life we don't know. But actually, we know the sensation of the presence of the energy body very well. For example, we have certainly known it even in ordinary dreams. Anyway, it is a reminiscence, a memory that we have, and therefore we simply let it surface. Initially, we do it as if it were evoking the presence of another person in the opposite position. This person, however, is not there physically. And so our sensation, the sensation that we evoke, that we construct of the presence of the other person, mixes with the forces at work in that place, which we gradually shape, and especially with the presence of intent that is present when we do this act. It is immediately recalled by this maneuver, even if we initially don't realize it. Consider that you're building the presence of the energy body with the matter that is in the empty space. In short, you're extracting from behind the description of the world the elements, the raw material that you need to realize the evoked presence of your energy body.